How's it going, everyone? The Trout91 here for your regular Friday commentary this week. I wanted to speak to you about maturity. Now, anyone who's been following me for quite a while now knows that I am not I'm not always the most mature person of the bunch. Whenever something passionate comes up for me, I find that I don't tend to act very maturely about things, and I'm sure anyone who's been following me on Twitter especially will know that I am far from the most mature apple that's fallen from the tree, if that's even a metaphor that works there. I don't know. Basically, I don't act that mature at times, and for a while I really neglected my maturity. I didn't particularly give a damn about what others thought and how mature I was acting. And lately I've kind of been thinking about the maturity in myself and how I've progressed as a person, because one thing that I feel that a lot of you will also be able to tell me is how I've progressed as a person over these years, if you've been watching for quite a while. And personally, I think, even though I don't always show it, I have progressed as a person in the maturity level quite a bit over the years. I find that my maturity has certainly come a long way, whereas a couple years ago, if there was some sort of beef going on the internet scene, I would certainly try and get myself in the thick of it, whereas now I've learnt to kind of just let it slide. I don't tend to get involved in it as much. You know, every now and then I tend to put someone in their place, but it's only so to kind of help someone out. If it's not a case of anyone's benefiting from it and it's just a backwards, forwards exchange of words and insults, I tend to just let it go. I've done this thing where I kind of put myself in a bubble away from the whole community at times, where I just stop caring what everyone thinks and what everyone's doing and let them just get on with their own thing, because it's not what I care about and it's nothing that I am interested in. It's just going to cause problems, it's just going to cause aggro, and it's not worth it in the end. So you'll see me occasionally on Twitter, not the most mature responses if you're thinking about it in all seriousness, but just sitting there like, oh, I'm grabbing the popcorn, or there'll be a huge Twitter war going on, and I'll just be like, these chicken nuggets are sensational, my dear. I'm really enjoying them. They are absolutely superb. Not too much salt, not too much sauce on it. It is superb. I'm really enjoying my nuggets. And it's kind of just little things like that, just not getting involved. And I did a little, well, I suppose it's research. It was simply typing in maturity on Google, but I found this kind of definition about maturity, and it said that maturity is used to indicate how a person responds to the circumstances or environment in an appropriate manner. Now, what do you determine to be an appropriate manner? Do you determine being an appropriate manner as getting involved, shouting, swearing, cussing, being a bit of an asshole about the whole situation, or do you determine maturity as not getting involved, stating opinion, and leaving it at that, and letting the rest kind of get hot and bothered about it? Or do you tweet stuff about chicken nuggets? Personally, I think that not getting involved is something that would show an extreme amount of maturity. However, what if the circumstance or the environment, it is, in that case, appropriate to get involved and say things that shouldn't be said or might not be the most productive, but that is the response you need to go with if someone is really not listening to the point that you have to say something extreme to get them to listen? Is that not a little bit contradictory? Maybe, because I think that what this definition is trying to say is to act in accordance to a friendly manner, sort of like a calm, compassionate kind of way, respecting others and respecting how people should behave to others. And it goes on to say that it's learned rather than instinctive, which I think is not necessarily true. I think when I was younger, like 7, 8, I acted like a very immature person. I just generally didn't give much of a damn about anything. I kind of was like all over the place, silly, reckless, you know, crazy, and just doing what a kid would do. But at the same time, if it came down to that point where, okay, you need to stop messing around and act mature, I could click it on in an instant and become the most mature person in the room. I just chose not to. And it's not something I learned, it's just something I knew. It's something I knew how to do and how to act. Possibly I might have learned it from seeing others, but I felt it was very instinctive the way I've learned it, and a lot of my maturity has come from myself and not necessarily something I've learned. And apparently it's not determined by one's age, which I have to beg to differ as well, because becoming 21 is certainly put a new perspective on life, whereas these things a year ago I was trying to bury myself in anything to stop myself from, I don't know, Peter Pan syndroming and becoming an adult, and now I just think about all the things that I want in life and in the future, and I start to think, right, it's trying to man up and start thinking about things. So I'm constantly checking business stuff, trying to make new contacts, get myself out there, talk to people, secure myself the things that I want and the goals on a new whole level of maturity that, you know, your parents go on about from a young age, but you never really listen, and then out of nowhere it's just clicked, and maturity has caught up with me. And I think one of the biggest things is the new Call of Duty that's going to come out on Tuesday. I did not care about it much at all this year. Its release doesn't really mean a huge lot to me. Obviously, I want to play it. I love to play it. If I could get my hands on it now, I'd definitely play the crap out of it. But in the past few years where it's been leading up to the release, I've been like, oh my god, I can't think about anything else. I want that game so badly because it's all I want to do. Whereas the release now, I'm not that bothered. You know, my maturity is kind of settled to this point where I'm not that over the moon, or I'm not that in that mindset where I have to do these things. My mind has other things on its own. If I have to wait for the game, then okay, I can wait for that game. I'm no longer that immature person who needs things right away. I can wait. I suppose that's patience comes into maturity, in a sense. Those two kind of go hand in hand. And it also says that it encompasses being aware of the correct time and place to behave, and knowing when to appropriately, accordingly, act on the situation and act according to the culture of the society it lives in. But what if the society is broken? What if the rules of the society are not necessarily the right ones, and you act in different ways, and you behave and know different things that shouldn't be right? Is that when do you define maturity then? I think for me, maturity just is that simple, knowing when you need to step up and do things that you might not necessarily like or do, but you know that in acting in this way, it's beneficial not only for yourself, but others around you as well. Maybe it's taking a back seat from something else. I don't know. It's something that's kind of played on my mind recently with the way that I've kind of gone about my life and the way I've been going about doing things in my life and for myself in a more mature manner. And I think I'm maturing as a person, and I thought I would just set this little seed into your mind and let you ask yourself, how are you maturing? Do you think you mature? What do you think about maturity? And do you think it's coming with age? Do you think it's something that you need? Something to think about. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later.